the house, your landlord. Well, when you purchase the home and you make that payment, there's a portion of that that goes off of your principal balance, giving you more equity in the home. And over the first 3 years of purchasing that $350,000 house, out of your payments, over $16,000 would go towards paying down the loan, basically putting that money back into your pocket, into your into the equity in the house. So the total of those three is the $53,000.
And that's very real money. That's very, and this is, we talked about this. I don't know if you heard last month's broadcast, but we did talk about how critically important it is that you understand the difference between owning and renting. And here we're talking about second homes, but wow, what a difference.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If I could put 53,000 into my pocket, I would.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we're far enough away from the housing crash in the last decade that we can ever afford to neglect a conversation about the crash and what that means for the future of real estate investing at any level. What are your thoughts on that, Tony? Do you think another one's around the corner, or where are you on that?
So Maggie, I absolutely love that question, right? I mean, for us being in the real estate industry, right? How many times do we see it? We've been through the crash. We've seen the one crash in our lifetime, and it was a big difference maker. It was huge. I mean, we had all kinds of things happening from these. Well, let's just go into, we've seen how much the property values dropped. We've seen a lot of things happen besides, but that was huge. Well, Maggie, I follow a lot of people and I listen to a lot of stories about economists and stuff to figure out what they're looking at and what they're talking about. And, they do predict a recession still. Maybe the end of this year we might see a recession, but a recession and a real estate crash are completely different. The recession we may see where stocks go down, our unemployment rate goes up, a little bit of difference in our economy. But usually what happens during that time is interest rates drop and interest rates get lower. And they're actually predicting that interest rates might get to a record low by the end of this year and go down another 0.5%.
Wow.
Which is great, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's good for our,
nice.
Right. So that's great for our real estate economy, because what happens is more people are able to purchase homes. More people come into the market. More renters become homeowners because the cost of money is so cheap. But when that starts happening and we have more homeowners purchasing homes, the supply and demand makes it to where we have too many buyers and not enough properties. And in our economy right now, this is nationwide. This is not just in Florida. We have a very low lack of inventory nationwide, and we have more buyers than sellers right now. And what that's going to cause is it's going to cause our property values to go up. So when we talked about the property values going up the next 3 years by 10% in Florida, or over 10% in Florida, that's very true to what I'm talking about. So when we see this recession, back to your question, we're going to see the values of properties actually go up and more people buying. And the reason for that is just not just because the rates are lower, but first-time home buyers, we have an influx number of first-time home buyers nationwide right now, more than the baby boomers. We have our Gen X and our millennials who are becoming at the age, the oldest one being 39 years old, which makes us old.
Yeah.
But being in their late 30s, coming into this market. And across the nation, we have not enough homes being built to supply the homes that we need for our first-time home buyers. So the sight of a crash is so far away that we don't predict or see anything of a crash because of that reason. And when we seen the crash back in 2007, it actually was that we had the lowest amount of birth rates at that time. The lowest amount of birth rates, and we had too many buildings being built. So it was a perfect disaster on top of what the banks were doing, and that's giving loans away with no income check and asset check and all this stuff, which is completely different nowadays. 100% full document. You can almost bank that every person on your street is fully qualified and they're not going to lose their house, which makes it completely different than we've seen a long time ago.
I hear that. So we have about 5 minutes left, Tony, and we're really, this is really I can tell you've really studied on this. I try to keep myself as well informed as possible. And I hope my customers, if any of them are listening to the show, that they are hearing this information because it's so important. But maybe we can recap some of the points about the strength of the market in Florida, which hasn't yet fully recovered compared to other places in the country. So not only is there a strong forward growth, but we still have a little bit of distance before we even catch up to where we were before. And that fits into that rule of supply and demand, because you're right, we don't have the supply and the home values in general. Can you say something to sort of wrap that up for us?
Yeah, absolutely, Maggie. I mean, the only thing I would say is that every person kicks themselves in the butt for not purchasing a property 15, 20, 30 years ago, right? And we all know if we bought that property 15, 20, 30 years ago, the value of that property today is so much greater, just like getting into the stock market or anything else. But you
Right.
know what? The second best time to buy a property is now, where interest rates are good, because we can't go back in time. I don't have a time machine, so we can't go back and buy that house back in 2010, which were the best prices we could have got. We probably 2 times more on our house then. But purchasing now, with everything that's going on, with what's happening with the rates, it's just a perfect time to get out there, to find what you like, to talk to your mortgage people, to talk to your realtor, to find out what you can do and become a homeowner or a second property owner, especially if you're thinking about moving to Florida for your retirement. It's just the best time to do that, and don't wait 3, 4 years, because it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more money if you can afford it today.
I hear that loud and clear. And we didn't even, and that was something else. I mean, this has been so informative. I'm excited. And I hope our audience thought we shared something today that might really
Absolutely.
help them. Yeah. And really and help them look at how they're going to invest in real estate for their golden years. And keeping in mind that the 2018 tax reform and that automatic $24,000 write-off. And I know you always like to ask people, are you paying that in taxes? Any last word on that? Because I know we're getting close to the very end here.
I mean, yeah, just really is that that's a question to ask to your CPA. But we do have and that's for a married couple. The new tax reform gives us a $24,000 standardized deduction already, and we can't itemize anything above that. So, I mean, the only thing I would tell you about that is that purchasing a new home usually is not an extra benefit like it used to be in the past on your taxes, but what we're looking at is what it gives you for your future. The only place you can put $350,000 in gain interest on, I'm sorry, I should say equity, is on a purchase of a home, because no financial advisor will let you build interest unless you actually have the money on there in the account with them. So it's the only thing that you can do to actually help your portfolio diversify it, and just use that for your future, whether you end up selling it, use them for retirement, pay it off, whatever you do. You have a ton of things that you can do with it. But there's no extra tax benefit as far as the $24,000 tax reform. Maggie, real quick, I know we're almost out of time. I do just
Yeah.
need to add one thing though. I do have my NMLS number is 220640, which is basically like our mortgage license information. And just had to make sure I get that out there in case anybody needs that info.
Absolutely. And another thing, Tony, we there's so much to cover, and we really haven't talked about the differences of purchasing a second home versus making Florida primary residence. I would love to invite you back next week. Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely, Maggie. I would love it.
Well, we've been talking about the golden age of real estate, managing your real estate portfolio with Tony Moore of Gulfside Mortgage, located here in Sarasota County. And Tony, how can someone from the audience reach you if they needed to talk to you about your services?
Absolutely. Our phone number here at the office is 941-485-4222. And our website is www.gulfsidemortgageservices.com. We've been here for over 17 years in Venice, Florida. and we have been voted best mortgage company for the last 16 years in a row. And we would love to help anybody answer questions or just give any information they might need.
Well, thank you. And remember, audience, real estate, home ownership is the easiest, most effective way to build wealth. Thank you, Tony. And thank you, audience, for listening. You have any questions or comments, please contact me at maggierosemarch.com or realestatehotwired@gmail.com.
This has been Real Estate Hotwired with Maggie Rose March.